Hello and welcome back to our series of podcasts at Severn Vineyard on encounters with God. We are looking at people in the Old Testament who've met God. Wow. And seeing what we can learn from them. Is there something that we can learn about God? Is there something that we can even learn about ourselves? Is there something that we can apply to our lives today? My name is Bern Leckie and I'm joined by Liz Nixon. Hello, Liz.
Hello.
And Liz, you did a fantastic talk at Severn on Sunday about
a character called Hagar.
And who is Hagar?
Yeah, good question. She's not very known in the Bible, and I think that's probably because she's part of Abraham's story. So Abraham, whose name is later changed to Abraham, she effectively becomes his second wife. So that's how she fits into the Bible. But I guess because we talk about Abraham, we don't necessarily think about this girl Hagar, and we tend to think of him more than her. So that's who I spoke on yesterday.
Got it. So just focus on Abraham for a minute. One of the first things that comes to mind for me is that song I learned when I was little about Father Abraham. Many sons
had Father Abraham.
Now, I don't know if I'm one of them, or also you. To be perfectly fair, because this is quite an important thing to know. What does it mean to be a son of Father Abraham? And does it matter kind of who the mum is? How does that all work?
Yeah, good question. So Abraham had two wives. Firstly, Sarai, who later becomes Sarah, and then this servant girl, Hagar, who is forced to marry Abraham. So she has Abraham's first child, is a boy called Ishmael, and Abraham and Sarah have a son together, and he is Isaac. And interestingly, as you kind of see throughout the whole of the Bible, you would expect that it's the firstborn that kind of steps up and everything comes through him. But actually, the way that the Bible does it, it inverts it. So it's the second son who is the favored one. And God says that the promise of that one who's going to come will come through Isaac rather than his firstborn. Two sons by two different women, but both lead to multitudes and nations being built up through them. So, Father Abraham did have many, many sons.
Yeah. So it's the sons through Sarai, or Sarah, as she becomes known, and that becomes the nation of
Israel.
Israel, right, yes. So back to Hagar then. Why did she come into the picture at all?
We don't know. She was probably given as a gift from the king of Egypt when Abraham and Sarai visited Egypt. We don't quite know. That's just guesswork, to be honest. But Hagar is Egyptian. We know that Abraham and Sarah went there. The Bible does say that they were given servants and camels and donkeys and stuff like that by the king of Egypt. So we assume that's how she probably came into their possession. Abraham and Sarai, it's a sad story for them. They have had years and years of not being able to have children. Abraham is 85. Sarai is in her 70s. I think she's about 75. So they must have had years of hoping for a baby and it not working out. And God has promised Abraham just a few chapters before that he is going to be a father of a nation. So they have this in their head, like they are going to be parents and it's going to be to a multitude. But it's still not happening. God has promised it and it's not happened. And I think Sarah just reaches breaking point. She's like, I've had enough. I can't wait. I can't do this anymore. She sees this young servant girl. We assume she's young because she gets pregnant pretty quickly. And she takes her and she gives her to her husband, and her husband gets her pregnant. And it's really interesting because it's language straight from the Garden of Eden, this whole thing about seeing something is good, taking it and giving it to the husband. You think that's exactly what happened in the garden. Eve saw the fruit. She saw that it was good. She took it and she gave it to her husband. And we know what happened as a result of that. The fall happened. They disobeyed God and were thrown out of the garden. And actually, it's not too dissimilar to what happens here. Sarai sees Hagar, thinks she'll be good for building up her own family instead of trusting God. And so she gives her to her husband, and there is effectively a banishment. Hagar runs away because of how she is later treated by Sarai. So it's very similar language. I picked that up from the Bible Project. They do amazing stuff. And they highlight that there are a few things like that, where there's the specific wording that is kind of reflecting what's gone on in the Garden of Eden, of seeing something, taking it. David is another example. He sees Bathsheba bathing naked on the rooftop, and he decides he wants her. She's pleasing to his eyes. He takes her. And again, like the devastation that comes as a result of that seeing and taking, is not good. But it's fascinating how the biblical writers have pulled this together to show you this theme is going on through the Bible, that people see things with their eyes and they just like, I want it, I'm going to take it, and it's not good.
I see. So how would Hagar have felt about all this, do you think? Because she was in this situation, she didn't get a choice about being a slave, and I guess she had to do what she was told in this situation as well. Yeah. What would she have expected?
I think this is really tricky, and this is something that I struggled with when writing the talk. You want to be aware of not being obtuse to what's going on and the reality. So, worst case scenario, she has been just given over by the king of Egypt, having been taken from her family. She's a servant there. She's then given to Abram. Abram then gives her to Sarai. Sarai is then, you can have her to give me a child. So there's a lot of treating her a bit like she's a possession. You have her. You have her. You do what you want with her. You can do this. So I think that's the kind of worst case scenario, that they're treating her as a nobody and just using her for their own purposes. Which obviously is awful. But there is the kind of thing of, well, if you're a servant girl, so there's kind of a contrast that some people think it's a slave, some people think it's a servant. It's more likely a servant girl who just actually was doing quite a good job. That's why she was given to Abraham, because Sarah was like, this girl is good. So I think there is that thing of, she was elevated to the status of wife. Now, she wasn't treated particularly fair. Abraham still didn't use her name. But some girls might have seen that as, I'm now a wife in a household. And we know that Abraham is a man with wealth. God certainly favors him. So it might have seemed like an opportunity to be elevated to the status of wife. And I know that might be a bit controversial, because we just don't know. And I think that's what can be hard with some stories in the Bible. We don't know what Hagar thought, but I think it's somewhere between the two of those. She was either forced into marriage, or she was like, maybe this could work out all right.
Yes. So one of the things that strikes me as difficult from her story is that she did what she was asked to do. It all worked out well. Yeah. And pregnancy was seen as a blessing, like a good thing. It's like, okay, I can see everyone would have been angry if this hadn't worked, but this has worked. So why am I now being mistreated? That seems like she's caught in a real bind there, and isn't that what sort of drives her away?
I mean, this was the master plan. This was Sarah's master plan, that Hagar would get pregnant. She would kind of adopt the boy as her own, and then Sarah could build her own family line through her servant. That was the plan. Yeah. And so when the plan actually works, and there is something that says Hagar became proud, and we don't know what that means. It says she looked on her mistress with contempt, is one of the translations. So again, there's a lot in this story about eyes and how you see things and how you see people. Abraham and Sarah thought it was okay to just look at her as a possession. Hagar looks on Sarah with contempt and pride. Maybe it's along the lines of, well, I've been able to get pregnant, you couldn't.
I see.
Who's more the woman here? Like me, I'm the one that got pregnant after sleeping with your husband. So she kind of has that attitude, which is then why Sarah afflicts her and abuses her. So the word afflict is the same word that's used of when the Egyptians afflict the Israelites when they're down in Egypt, which is very interesting. The contrast of, this poor Egyptian servant girl being afflicted by the Israelite man and woman. And then it then becomes a whole nation of Israelites are afflicted by the Egyptians.
That's still to come in the story. So it's just kind of a foreshadow, maybe, of that. Yeah, I see. So what happens then when Sarah starts to mistreat Hagar and Hagar runs off?
Yeah. She runs into the wilderness and she, she's pregnant. She would have known she's pregnant. And so she stops for a rest. And I mentioned in my talk that the place where where she stops is a spring. And that spring is called Seeing. So again, it goes back to that whole thing of eyes and sight and vision. It comes up a lot within this story. So at the spring of Seeing, an angel of the Lord appears to him. So he makes himself visible or seen to Hagar at this spring as she's stopping for a rest, probably for a drink, wanting to rest after having run away. So that's when the angel of the Lord appears to her.
Unexpected plot twist. Right. So what's God's take on all this then? Yeah,
it's really interesting. I love that the angel firstly calls out her name. Abraham and Sarah don't do that. They just call her servant, you're my servant, you go sleep with my servant. That's how they talk about her. But this angel of the Lord straight away is like, Hagar. And I just think, wow, how long had it been since somebody had used her name and spoken to her and actually known who she was? So I just love like the intimacy that God quickly reveals to her.
That sounds like something which might be relatable today then, because the whole business of what would we do if we were slaves in another country kind of feels, in another time, obviously feels far away, but how does it feel like to be seen by God? What is that about for you?
I think it is that thing of just being seen by anyone means that you matter to them, that you're important, that you are there. And so if you're seen by somebody really important, that thing about if you meet a celebrity and you're like, oh, I can't believe I met them. Like I saw them and they saw me. Like there's this kind of feeling of, I matter because I saw that person and they saw me. And I think, it's that same kind of thing, isn't it? Like if God, the God who made everything, who's currently sat on a throne, like high up in the heavens, sees me, like maybe I'm important, because there's like billions of people that he could see. And yet he chooses to see me. And I just think, I quoted David in my talk, but David says, who am I that God is mindful of me? And you're like, why would God take notice of me when there's so many other things he could be getting on with and doing, and so many other people, but he is mindful of me? It's just mind-blowing, and it feels a bit impossible to believe, but it is true. It is true.
Yes, I see what you mean. And so I suppose there's that thing of, like, think about a celebrity. You might be one of thousands of people in the crowd, and everybody knows who they are on stage. But if they then turn around and call your name out, it's like, whoa.
How do you know me?
How do you know me? Yeah. Who? What? Did I tell you how it happened to me once?
No.
I went to see Kelly Clarkson do a gig and she was doing quite well by that stage. I think she had her first or second album out at that point, and so all the crowd knew the words and everyone was singing along with all the songs, and we had a great time, and it was for work, so we got specially ushered into the sort of the backstage area afterwards to do a little meet and greet, and we were all a bit kind of, we met lots of famous people, but she was on the level of, like, doing it all around the world, and kind of, we're all a bit nervous. Oh, what do we say to Kelly Clarkson? And when she comes out, she says, "Hi, Bern." What? How do you? And the weird thing was, I just forgot that we'd met with, like, 3 years before. We'd met under slightly unusual circumstances, because when we'd met the first time, she was brand new. And she was, no one had promoted her in Britain at all. They hadn't shown the TV show that she'd, American Idol, that she won. They hadn't shown it on any proper channels or anything. So really, hardly anyone knew who she was. But we'd picked up on her anyway, because I like to keep my ears open. And we played her stuff on the radio. And so we'd had a chat. And we'd also, because I found out she was a Christian, we had a bit of a chat about faith while no one else was there, and a bit of a pray together. Which we don't normally do on a work interview thing. And so, and I'd just forgotten, but she remembered.
Isn't that remarkable that she remembered your name? She remembered that you were from Bristol.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, what attention to detail, like, and just what kindness of her character that she remembers people. And you think that is what God is like. She is being like God. She's remembering you in the same way God remembers everything about us.
Yes.
That's really
Yes.
cool, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, and it reminded me. I suppose it made me feel kind of very inadequate for a moment, thinking that trying to imagine the life of anyone, like a person who has to deal with like hundreds, thousands, and thousands and thousands of people all the time. That some things would stick out. Yeah, it is special for someone to be known by someone who has to know thousands of people, and so yeah, you multiply that up into, like, well, how special it is to be known by God, who knows all the billions of people who've ever been and ever will be. Just that thought of being known and loved and called out by God is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some would say literally incredible, but that's our faith, that as incredible as it seems, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So back to Hagar and how Hagar's story kind of makes you feel. What's for you is that significance of being known and called out and called by name? What is Hagar given that makes her feel special?
God gives her a lot. So he says that she's pregnant, that she's going to have a son, that this son is going to be called Ishmael, and that this boy is not going to be a servant like she was. He's going to be independent. He'll get to roam free in the land. He'll rule over his brothers. And that he will have lots of descendants. So she is given the same promise that, and I find this amazing. We think of Abraham as like the father of, the faith. And yet Hagar is given exactly the same promise as him. She is told that she will be the mother of like multitudes. And this is just a foreign Egyptian servant girl. She's not the man. She's not the chosen man, but she is still chosen in a different way. And I think that's what's really remarkable about her story. And it just shows you that we can see people and think, oh yeah, we think they're in or we think they're out. And it would be easy to look back at the scriptures and think, well, yeah, we can see why Hagar is out, because she's female, she's Egyptian, she's a servant. But God is like, no, she's in. I want her to be the mother of a nation. And you're like, wow, like God is so gracious and so kind. And we don't know why he chooses who he chooses, but he doesn't just choose the obvious people.
And so what do you think that would have meant for her at the time, to be turned around literally by God and saying, you've come from this circumstance of where it looks really difficult at home, but I'm giving you this purpose and I'm telling you what your family is going to be. What do you think life would have felt like then?
Wow, I think it's interesting because her circumstances didn't change. She went back, and we don't really know, but God wasn't promising to change the immediate circumstances. He was talking about the future. And I think I can certainly relate to being given prophetic words about, like who my children will be and what my life might look like. And it's just, I think it brings joy and excitement and that sense of purpose that we all need. We need to feel like we're here for a reason, that we matter, we belong, that we're meant for something more than ourselves. And I think that's what happens to me when I receive prophetic words. And I think probably similar for Hagar. She probably would have been like, I can't believe that God has chosen me, but he has. This is great. I'm going to enjoy this and enjoy the God that's given me this good gift.
Amazing. Yes, that's the sort of healthy end of, don't you know who I am? when you get into confrontations and you want to say to people, but don't you know? I'm an important person, I'm significant. And sometimes that comes out really badly. But I guess inside it can give you that strength, can't it? When you know that yes, you're not just defined by that argument that you happen to have just gotten into, but you are this person who's got this purpose to do all these other things. And
she's willing to go back. I mean, the first thing the angel says to her is like, you need to go back to your mistress. And then he gives the promise. And you just think, yeah, she was willing to go back based on her encounter with God. And I just think that's so brave. She had just run away from an abusive environment, and she's willing to go back because she's strengthened and empowered by God and what he has said to her. And like, that's the real impact of God. Like, one word from God can change everything. in you, but doesn't necessarily change everything outside of you. And I think that's what you see in quite a few of the Bible characters. It's not that their situation change, it's that they change and they're able to face what's going on in their lives. I just think that's amazing. And that's God. That's who he is. That's how he works.
And where have you seen that working today? You mentioned about prophetic words and how they've given you a similar sort of strength or purpose or hope. Is there anything particular that you're carrying that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I think a couple of years ago, just before COVID, we had Tom Camacho come and do some coaching with us for our leadership and for our staff. And he did an evening with the staff team. And I'd been coming out of a difficult season, and I've been praying all day, like, God, please let him notice me. Please let me be able to have a coaching session with him. And he did. He coached me. It was quite vulnerable. I was doing it being coached in front of the whole staff team. So you're aware that you're pouring out your heart of what you really want. And I think that can be hard, because when you say what you want, people then know and expect you to like live into that. Anyway, Tom was just doing like he does and was asking questions, and he just said, he just affirmed me and was like, you're a teacher. And I was like, I think it's that whole thing of if you say yes. I mean, I love the Bible. I can't get enough of it. I love reading it. I love exploring it. I love watching the Bible Project stuff. I love talking about it. And I've always kind of felt this, I would love to be able to preach from the front, but I think I felt like I couldn't, that wasn't my place, that I wasn't good enough to do that. And so to have somebody so publicly to the staff team just say, you are a teacher, I just felt like that was God affirming me in that. And I think from since then, I believe it. Now, I'm not a fully formed teacher. I know that I have to grow in the skill, but I know without doubt, God has made me to teach the Bible. I can't not teach. It's who I am. Like everything I do, I just can't help but talk about God. And I think having that, like, this is who I am, I then live into it, which is, I've just done my third talk, and I'm very new to it. And I know that I'm not skilled as a teacher yet, but I know it's who I am, and I know that's my future, that's my purpose. I'm meant to teach the Bible. So everything I'm doing is to try and improve and come up to speed so that I can be a great teacher, and just live into who I am. So it was really profound for me, really profound, being told that publicly, and then being like, I've got a choice now. I either just be like, oh yeah, that's a nice thing, and do nothing about it, or I step into it, I practice, I learn, and when I'm given opportunities, I say yes, because I am a teacher. So if someone asks me to teach, I say yes.
Okay, and I can see what a big kind of, not just a confidence boost, but that sort of sense of purpose that's given you has really shaped your choices, and then, as you say, you've lived up to it. I'm just thinking about someone who might be listening to this who thinks, well, I would like that. I would like to that sort of encounter with God, but you never know when an angel's just going to show up, like for Hagar. And I don't know if an angel was part of your story, but it sounds like someone else came along with a word. How can someone who's listening who would like to have that sort of encounter, where should they be looking? How can God speak into our lives?
Yeah, good question. I think this is what the church is meant for. We are meant to call out the good that we see in each other. So in the same way that we've talked about, we see, Sarai saw the good in Hagar and then use that for bad purposes. We are to call out what we see as good in people. Like, thank you so much for praying for me. You had such great words when you were saying that. Or, you're so great with little children. Have you thought about doing this? Or, yeah, I really like the way that you wrote those couple of phrases. Have you thought about writing something more? So I think it's just seeing who people are and calling out the gold that's within them, because everyone is made in the image of God. God has placed something unique in each of us. And yeah, we get the joy of being able to say, yeah, Bern, you're so great at communicating and making things happen in that sphere. Like, do more of it. And yeah, I think it's really important that we do that. And as we are people who do that, people will do it to us as well. We'll gradually have a culture of people just calling out the best and what we see people, and people will then be able to move more into their giftings, what they were made for, and ultimately thrive and flourish.
So I am hearing you talking about not just a sort of a sitting around and waiting, or for a big flash of inspiration to come along, but for us to be part of a culture where we aren't just getting inspiration from other people, but we are expecting to be part of the inspiring others as well.
Absolutely.
What do we need to do? Is there anything we need to do to get better at that, and so that we know that it's, we're sharing whatever it is God wants us to share, and not just kind of going off on our own weirdness?
Yeah, I think, we all partake in things, and it doesn't have to be in like our church context. It can be at work, it can be with our children, like with my children, we try and call out, oh, that was so kind of you to help your sister. Like, what a caring brother you are. That was such a good thing to do. So I think it can be in any setting, but particularly within church. I mean, just saying to the worship band, oh, I really enjoyed the set that you chose. Thank you for choosing that. And it's just willing to like say thank you to people, and that was a really great talk, or I love the prayers that you did, or thank you for serving me a cup of coffee. Like, it's really little things, but it just it really impacts people. I think the church will thrive when people are doing what they were made to do, and being who they were made to be by God. And we need to encourage people to step into what they were made to do. So I think more of these conversations would be great. That's part of the reason why I'm a coach. I've recently trained as a coach within the Vineyard, and coaching is brilliant for helping people move towards a life of flourishing and thriving. So I think coaching is a great tool, having conversations with people, calling out the gold, all of these things are really good for helping people move towards their purpose and who God has made them to be.
That's great. And you mentioned the gold a couple of times, and I recognise this as the other sort of thing that you're carrying. Just tell us about that.
So the gold is a course that my husband and I run, and it's very much about taking you through a process of understanding your relationship with God the Father, your identity in Jesus, and then working out your purpose in partnering with the Holy Spirit. So it's a course that we run each term. It was amazing. I was struggling with knowing how to structure my talk on Hagar, and God spoke to me in a dream, and he was like, it's the gold. And God was right. It is the gold, because when he approaches Hagar, he builds relationship with her. He goes after her. He shows her that he cares. Like, that's relationship building stuff. And then he tells her who she is. Like, you are going to be the mother of a nation. I have seen you. I have loved you. I have chosen you. So he's like reinforcing who she is and who she has always been. And then finally, he gives her this purpose of, this boy is going to, be part of a multitude of descendants for you. So he really does do that. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that I didn't see that within the text, given how clued up I am to relationship, identity, and purpose. And God really kindly gave it to me, and I was able to shape my talk around that. So we love the gold. We try and run it most terms. So it's a really great thing. And both my husband and I have really grown through doing it repeatedly.
Right. So if you're listening to this and you're interested in this process of, I wonder what God would say to me if I was in this position, is there a way of finding out more about this idea of purpose? Then gold's quite a good way of exploring that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we run it on a kind of in a group session online, and we've also done some mentoring of it, so we do it on a one-on-one basis as well. So that can be a good way to run through the course too, as a kind of mentoring relationship. So there's a number of ways that we do it to try and bring some flexibility to how people live and how they want to do stuff.
Fantastic. So if that sounds interesting to you, get in touch and have a look at when we're next doing the gold course. Thank you so much, Liz, for chatting about Hagar.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you for joining us. We will come back next time with someone else from the series, but I'm not quite sure actually at this point who it's going to be.
I believe Jess will be speaking on Moses.
Oh, excellent. We'll see you very soon. Thanks for listening.